Say hello to Paul Schaefer, everyone. Remember? Say hello to Paul Schaefer, everyone.
Cool. Get that. We won't start. Welcome to Small Town News. My name's Gil. I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, John Renison, having coffee with the candidate. What's up? How's it? I mean, obviously I know you, but running again? District
Running again, man.
1.
District 1. It'll be my third term. If God willing, I get elected. And, it'll be a runoff. It'll be November. You got too many candidates running. And obviously, you get 50 plus 1% of the vote. You're done. That's pretty tough when you have 4 running. And, it's a democracy. So anybody can sign up, and more power to them. Been at this for 20 years now. Took a two-year break, 08 to 10. City Council in 96 to 08. And Chamber of Commerce work, public sector work, private sector work, a lot of international relations, radio. Back in the 70s, man, that was my greatest love. I got started in Mexicali. That's where they taught me how the ropes to do radio. And I got a job on this side of the border at KAMP back in 69, 70, doing weekends. But my greatest love is people, and I love to interact. I love to get those phone calls and concerns of people. It's amazing how many people say, most politicians don't return calls, and I'm thinking, well, that's what it's all about.
You return my texts, you return my calls.
Yeah.
I've never had an issue. I mean, I think when I started working, my first thing was to set up interviews with you guys. Mm-hmm. And you're the first one to say, hey, let's meet up.
I'm pretty much on it.
Yeah, and I was a new guy. I didn't have this show. I didn't have any of this.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, let's meet up.
Sure.
And you didn't know who the hell I was, So.
No, it's amazing. It's amazing how people, I got a call from a guy in Calexico about 6-8 months ago, and he had a petition. 150 people signed something. They were upset about some issue. It's a city issue. And I said, well, how can I help? And he says, well, that's why I called you. He says, because I know you would. Now you can, because people know you to step in and do stuff. You got to understand, Gil, I don't have a wide base of relatives and of compadres and comadres and a machine. You're looking at it, the one-man band, if you will. The cymbals, the tambourine, the drum, the trumpet, the whole bit. Yeah, but I'm there, and I try to do the best I can with a limited time, but I try to spread myself, and the fear is you spread yourself too thin sometimes, but you do the best you can. And I think people recognize that. What helps me the most is I'm out there visible, and I'm at a lot of places. Facebook is great. I try to let people know where I'm at. I don't want to feature myself. I don't know if you've noticed that. I don't like to say John Renison, because they know. I don't need to drill that in their head. I was there, and we're at this program, and let's take care of this, or we were there and I was talking to you, and that's what I want people to know is the involvement, and the feedback I get is the fact that you're everywhere, and I'm glad they're saying that, because I am. I try to be everywhere.
Yeah, no, and I call you a legend because you said you have found success in Calexico, and even Mexicali. I mean, I see you on the news.
Yes.
And yeah, your name isn't Romero or one of those family names in Calexico.
Right.
Yeah, you're John Renison.
Right.
Yeah, you found success in Calexico. I mean, that's why I call you a legend.
Well, in Mexicali, strangely enough, they don't call me Renison. They say Renison. Because if you say Renison, whoop. But if you say Renison, it's just the way they pronounce it. And then right away it clicks. I was at a restaurant the other day, and I ran into a guy I hadn't seen in 20 years. Man, he knew my history, man. He knew everything. He knew exactly what we're up to at the county. I said, how do you keep on top of it? Oh, I follow you. He says, I follow you, man. And it's amazing. And that really is feels really good when you go over there and you run into people that don't even know you sometimes and approach you and say, hey, what about this question I have about customs or about the county or about Calexico? And pretty much people approach me on general questions. If I can't answer the question, which 20% of the time I may not be able to, but I'll give them in touch with who can. That's kind of my approach. I was going to say, let me get back to you. And I do. I'm really good at follow-up. It really, what bothers me sometimes is somebody said, hey, I texted you or I called you. Did you really? And I'll check. I didn't receive anything. Anyway, sometimes things do fall through the cracks. Let's face it, we're all human. But I try to be as responsive as I possibly can.
Yeah. So you got quite said it might probably be a runoff, possibly.
Sure, absolutely.
Why this year do you feel that there's more people? Was there always people throwing hat in the race?
It's Calexico, Gil.
Yeah, you're right.
It's
you're right.
you know, Gil. You probably didn't want to say that. You probably didn't want to say that, but I'm going to say it. Calexico is a very divided city, and you know, we're united, but yet we're divided. You know, people sometimes run for the wrong reasons. They don't have a platform, but they say, well, let's go after this guy. He's been there too long, but they don't really have a platform. And they'll try to convince people to say, well, this guy's been there too long, so what's he done, this and that. So when I'm able to respond to that, that kind of allays the fears of people. But you know, the most feedback I get is that, hey, you've been there a while, but you've got the experience and you're the most qualified, which I agree with. And you know, it's not to take it away from candidates, but people need to run for the right reasons. That's my message. You run for city council, there'll be 2 seats available in November. There'll probably be 6, 8, 9, 10, 12 candidates always. When I ran, it was 13 candidates every time back in the 90s, and 3 of us would get elected because it was that cycle, you know. And people need to know that they need to run for the right reasons. And don't disappear. Just because you lose, don't take it personal. You know, try to do something for your community. Volunteer, do something, you know, and don't just come out of the clear blue and, you know, say you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, because none of us are. You know, we do the best we can. I do have the experience. I think I have the follow-up. I think I have the, I'm not the smartest one in the room, obviously, but I think I have common sense enough to know what people's needs are.
So what are some of the needs right now in your maybe district and maybe in the county as a whole?
Gil, all of our problems will be solved with increased employment, even though unemployment has gone from 27 to 17%. Is amazing. In 6, 7 years, 5 years, we're still not happy, and we shouldn't be bragging about that, but 10 points is pretty good. A reduced unemployment rate, believe it or not, that just came out. It was like at 17 here about a month ago, but we don't need to be satisfied with that. We need to look at, and you know, competing with Mexicali, you just can't do it. Minimum wage over there, you know, people are making what, 8, 9, 10 bucks a day, whatever it is, 6 days a week. The maquiladoras, waiters over there make better than people that work in maquiladoras. They can make upwards of $30, $40 a day in a restaurant, and that's big money in Mexicali. That's why those jobs are precious over here. And nobody should be working for minimum wage, Gil. Absolutely not. $11, what can you do with $11 an hour? But the state of California also has got us boxed into this deal by the 2022. It'll be at $15 an hour. And believe me, I'm a firm believer and people ought to be paid what they're worth. And I do feel for these folks that are a minimum wage. They're not getting anywhere. So we need to do all we can to see if we can't get some increased investment. Development, we have to provide incentives, but Gil, we have to be very cautious. What they'll do is they come in and they cherry pick what we're offering. You go somewhere else, and then they say, well, Imperial County is going to do this. Then they'll come back to us and say, hey, by the way, you got to throw this in for us, and then they go somewhere else. It happens time and time again, and that's not acceptable. And is it going to continue? Probably. So we need to be very astute on what we do. The solar industry came in because this is just a natural place to do the solar. Geothermal is big because that's where the big taxes are, the property taxes that keep this county running. Millions and millions of dollars. And this will be expanding. This will be growing in the next 3 to 4 years. The state of California finally realizes what the potential is here. Now the IID and the Calexico have solved that issue about transporting, which is a good thing. We'll be able to transport electricity out of here, and the IID will become more good or solid for or receiving monies for their transmission capabilities. That's another thing. When I got elected to the board, the IID and the board did not get along. And I thought, why not? What is this all about? And within a year or two, we had a 2-on-2, and now the IID and the county meet monthly. Absolutely. Gil, we represent the same people. So why the hell are we arguing? We don't need to be arguing. So now we meet. And then when the New River thing came up, I don't know if you know about the MOU we signed, IID, county, city, and state. Everybody was in a room. Within an hour and a half, we had an agreement. Okay, IID, city, county, Calexico, the state, we'll come to the plate. We'll support you, the state. We'll do some maintenance and all of that. we'll provide an MOU type situation, JPA, but let's get this thing's going. Let's quit talking about the New River. Let's do something. The state at least has done a little bit, haven't done enough, but the feds have done absolutely nothing. And they've done absolutely nothing on those federal issues. And this is the thing where we don't have the political power that San Diego does, but yet we do have their support when it comes to pollution, when it comes to port of entry. Even though we're #1 priority GSA on our port, we haven't got the funding for phase 2 yet. They gave us a setback here a couple of weeks ago, but we're going to continue to fight. We are unrepresented at the federal level. We only have half a congressman. He's only one person. He can only do so much, but the San Diego delegation supports us. We're a member of Border Trade Alliance, Texas, California, and Arizona. But guess where all the political power is? Texas. Because they have Congress people all along the border. We just have one. Arizona has 2 or 3. We have one. How's that going to compete with Texas? So it's really hard to draw attention, even though California is what, the 5th economy in the world, to the border and how important it is. And I'm going to continue to fight for that until they're tired of hearing from us. You know.
Yeah, because especially in your area, you said you're juggling.
That drives everything. The border drives Calexico. The border drives the Valley, Gil. You know, it used to be a Calexico issue. Hey, people realize they go to the mall and 60-70% of the license plates are from Mexicali.
Yeah, I think Esperanza did that study.
Yes.
And I thought,
yes.
Why doesn't more people know about this? Because that information that they found out about the mall and how the economy from Mexicali is.
And as hard as it is to get across the border, they're still coming. 2 hours, hour and a half, and now going into Mexicali 3 or 4 days a week. I don't know if you've experienced that. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, I had a funeral to go to a few weeks back, and I got stuck in traffic on like 7th Street.
I had a 7 o'clock appointment on a Friday night, and I thought, I'm going to leave at 6:15. I got to Mexicali at 7:45. I could not believe it. First time and only time that's ever happened to me. The traffic from Calexico to Mexicali, due to the way the inspection queue is in Mexicali going in, is horrendous. Now, we have already met with Mexican Customs, but it's a presidential year down there, and there's a lot of revolving door. People are running for the exit. You ever heard that one? The new boss is coming in November, so, I mean, what decisions can we make right now, blah, blah. So we did meet with the new Customs Administrator and other folks down there, and we have good relationships. We'll continue. I got to emphasize, this is an Imperial County problem, not just a Calexico problem. This is valley-wide. We have to band together on the port of entry, on the New River, on all of those issues that affect the border. The Mexicali drives the economy of the valley. There's no question about it. No question about it.
Wow.
And all this cross-border traffic, the people that work and live both sides of the border, they're allowed, if you're a C1, I believe it is, the visa, the actual work permit, if you're a resident alien, you can live there or you can live here. It's legal. And so all that traffic going south a lot of times in the afternoon, those are commuters. Our population swells in the county by about 40,000 people a day with cross-border commuters. And then you have the folks that are resident aliens that cannot live in Mexicali, that must live in the United States. They can still cross, but they can't reside in Mexicali because they're eventually going to become U.S. citizens, so they're not allowed to be living on the other side of the border. They have to live here. So it's a little confusing, but most of that cross-border traffic is is the people who work here and live in Mexicali.
Yeah, so
it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's a phenomenon.
It is.
The people just don't realize it. You got to spend a couple hours on a Friday afternoon in Calexico on a normal Friday, and they'll know what we're talking about.
Now, the county's gone through a lot of changes. New CEO, I know some budgetary issues.
Right.
What's 2018? What can the county look forward to this calendar year?
We're going to be tight. We're going to be okay. We're going to know in about 2 months. We're going to have a proposed budget no later than June. We're going to have some numbers in about 3 to 4 weeks. So the end of April, we're going to have some numbers. As you know, property taxes kind of come in little droves, and a lot of times you say, oh, wait a minute, we're short here, but here comes some property taxes to balance us out. We're going to be okay. We just don't have the final numbers, but please rest assured that people aren't going to get laid off. We're not going to have any drastic cuts. We are asking departments to watch their expenses. We're asking them to watch their travel. We're asking them to not send 3, 4 people when they can send one. Things of that nature.
Are you guys watching your travel?
Absolutely. Check it out. Check it out. You know, I have hesitated to go to D.C. because of that. Unless there's a real bona fide reason, port of entry or something, that we're going to actually get an audience, I'm not going to go back there and spend 3 or 4 days making the rounds in the halls of the Capitol when they've already got their minds made up. Like this phase 2 funding that Trump had included, and then Congress gives him $1.5 billion for the wall, but no port of entry for phase 2. Kind of bizarre, isn't it? You think efficiency and security, but yet they didn't give us the $200 million that we're lacking, which is a drop in the bucket for phase 2. But we're not going to stand idly by. We're going to fight for that, and we're going to continue to fight for that.
Now I've brought up some issues. Pacific land loan.
Sure.
As you look back now, I mean,
Sure.
I don't know the status. Can you provide me with the status update or what's going on? Because I know
Sure.
I made some noise about it. Now, you want to expand on that?
Sure. It's problematic. It was a loan to create so many jobs. They did create the 40 or 50 jobs at the AMPM. We did loan them some money.
I mean, I got to give credit. AMPM is one of the busiest.
It's like, I guess, the cheapest gas in the valley,
It's
packed, and you get a bottle of water and all that. Make a long story short, that was a problematic deal. And they came to us and they wanted an extension on the loan. We said no. Bottom line. So now we're waiting for that payment, which we should be getting any day now. So that's where it's at right now.
Yeah, April, right?
That's right. April 8th, if I'm not mistaken, is the kind of the drop dead date. And the majority of the board said, provided direction to make sure that we collect that money. I have a real issue now in the future with loans. I think the public benefit funds were created to benefit the public. And that's what my emphasis is going to be if reelected for another 4 years. I'm going to be very cautious. We've supported community groups. Oh, by the way, one of the thriving success stories is the bowling alley. They're actually making money, and they're actually making 2 payments instead of 1 each month to pay us back. So that's a good thing. And they're a nonprofit. ARC took over the bowling alley, and you go out there, it's a really good operation. So we would hope that more businesses are like that. But I think we have to be real cautious, Gil, into getting into the banking business. That's why they did that moratorium, and I respected Luis Plancarte on that. I said, you know what? Yes, let's take a look at this. What are we doing? What are the guideposts? We did frustrate some people because there were 17 people in queue, and a lot of those will get funded, some won't. But we've got to be very inclusive and make sure we're doing the things for the right reason.
Yeah. How in Calexico, it's like for a while there you had the Blue Flame Society and this one.
And what happened to them?
You stayed out of it though. I mean,
yes.
I feel even like I know people from Calexico.
Yes.
And I feel that one side would be, oh, I don't like this person,
right.
and then the other side kind of, I don't like this person.
Right.
You've stayed out of it. You've been a neutral kind of.
I have, and because people who know me, Gil, know that I'm not going to be involved in that personal back and forth thing. And don't take your feuds public with public safety or with fire or with administration. It becomes a little bit of a laughing stock, so you need to stay away from that. But you're absolutely right. I was fortunate enough to kind of distance myself from that, but people knew that I respect authority, I respect collaboration, and I'll talk to anybody. And so when all of that was going on, even though I was here at the Board of Supervisors, I was exposed to it down there, but I was actually able to kind of stand off to the side and say, let's not tinker with that. Let's look at the big picture. Let me do my job, and if people need to ask me to do stuff or me to get involved, I will. And that's my position. I'm not going to tell the city council what to do. I never will. But if they ask me for advice, we've helped them with 2nd Street. We've actually gotten them a $3 million loan from EDA for 2nd Street, which is still up in the air as far as the Grand Plaza. And we've also assisted Grand Plaza in getting approval for the over-the-counter loan, it's called ODC loan from the state for the enclosure, but they haven't decided what they want to do. So I feel I've done my due diligence. Come to the plate, help Calexico, because Calexico needs the help, and I represent Calexico, and I'll always be there to help them out any way I can.
Calexico boy.
Yeah. Hey, I was born Well, I was raised on Heber Avenue, man, since I was 1 year old. You know, my grandfather knew Pancho Villa. My grandmother was a seamstress. He was a tailor. They met in El Paso or Juarez, then moved to California, and then he would go every summer in the 50s to see Pancho Villa's widow. So let me tell you, man, I mean, I'm half Mexican, and my Spanish, of course, has gotten me where I am today. My dad was the iceman in Calexico, so every field worker knew him. And every person who got ice delivered to their homes in the 40s and the 50s, because remember, not everybody had electric refrigerators. There were ice boxes. I remember. I'd go with him as a little kid, you know. We'd deliver ice, so I go way back. So when I was knocking on doors in '96 the first time, people remember me as that little kid that worked at the ice plant. Yeah, amazing. It was amazing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was amazing. And people to this day in Mexicali know me to be the son of the Iceman in Calexico. Yeah, and my dad spoke pretty good Spanish, very heavy accent, but he spoke it. My mother obviously was a Mexican, and she spoke fluent Spanish, being the daughter of Efraín de la Vega, who was a tailor who knew Pancho Villa.
Yeah, what the-
You know, in high school, we went to school with a lot of kids from Mexicali. Back in those days, you had all these kids from Mexicali who didn't go to Vincent High School, let's say, prior to Vincent. They went to the public high school, and man, they become more fluent than I did in English, for God's sake. And you know, but my emphasis was always, when I was 17, 18 years old, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to do something with my Spanish. And so I made it a point when I went to college to double major English and Spanish. Actually, Spanish and history, I take that back. Spanish and history, I changed my major. And the rest is history. So my claim to fame is I'm pretty fluent.
Oh,
as
yeah,
you know.
you're on the
As you know.
Mexicali News Channel.
I'll go to Mexico City and they'll say, are you from El Norte? Are you from the north? Well, yeah, the north of South. Where? Calexico, right on the border. No, you're not from California. Yes, I am. I'm not from. Oh, you're not from Mexico, huh? No. Oh, you're not from Sonora. You're not. No. I'm actually from California. But they're amazed because my Spanish is pretty good. My Spanish is pretty
So
good.
what made to become elected official motivated you to become a city councilman, supervisor?
My dad always said, you're a public guy, you like people, you need to be with people. Don't ever get in an office for 8 hours where you can't look outside. Need a big window, which I had at San Diego State, by the way. But he says, get involved with people because you're a people guy. That's what it was. I like people. I want to know. I wanted something to where I could assist people and where I could be a mingler, but also get something done and not just all talk, you know. And believe me, us politicians, we got to talk, but we also got to follow through. That's the real test. You got to follow through.
And
that's
I
think so. I think
your
so.
record, your track record.
I
of
think
being
so.
People wouldn't elect you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think the votes speak for itself.
And not everybody's going to love you, you know, but even my detractors say, oh, that guy works hard, you know, even though they don't like you. You know, I don't know why I don't like you. I just don't like you, you know, but that's okay. I'll accept that because not everybody's going to love you for X. And, you know, it's because their compadre ran against you or their uncle or, you know, X deal. But, yeah, overall, I think so. I think I'm pretty responsive.
No, yeah. So I'll probably wrap it up there.
Thank you, Gil.
Final thoughts, burn desire?
Nothing other than it's a real privilege to be in the county. It really is. I got there in January of 11, and I said it was buyer's remorse. I said, what have I done? But, you know, within a month or two, I said, wow, I did the right thing, man. And the rest is history, and I'm there for the people, and I'm a county supervisor representing Calexico, so I'm open to everybody.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Gil.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gil. Hey, and you're going to get me right on time to Calexico.